Hey guys, Derrick Ruiz here, and my new video is the 25 mistakes landlords make and how to avoid them. I did a video like this a few weeks ago. It was only 10 mistakes, but there are so many more mistakes that landlords are making that I see all the time. Since I'm an apartment broker and I work with landlords, I wanted to update the video and bring you the 25 mistakes that landlords often make. And believe me, there's more than 25, but I wanted to keep this video to the first 25 most important mistakes that you guys are sometimes making and some advice on how to avoid them. Okay, let's get started. Mistake number one, you didn't set a precedent as a strong landlord at the beginning of the tenancy, i.e. you didn't give any rules and regulations of what you expect from the tenant. When you take a new tenant into your building, you need to explain the rules and regulations in writing of what you expect from that tenant. You're not allowed to park there. You can't use the laundry or dryer after 11 o'clock. You can't wash your car in the alley, or whatever it is. You need to set that tone of it being a strong, proactive landlord at the get-go so these tenants don't walk all over you because you're a weak landlord. Very important. Mistake number two, not using the latest and greatest landlord rental applications, leases, and disclosures. Guys, things change quickly. Laws change. Municipal codes change. Ordinances change. Our politicians are always doing things and creating new rules, regulations, laws, etc. Use the latest and greatest documents when you're renting or taking an application. I recommend you go to Dennis Block's website at evict123.com. He's got the latest and greatest rental applications, lease agreements, parking agreements, everything, so that you stay in compliance. I know Dennis is always updating his documents that he offers, and these are free landlord forms for us to use. Or if you're a member of AGLA or AOA USA, they usually have the latest and greatest updated documents. So make sure you're not using outdated forms. Mistake number three, not following the Fair Credit Reporting Act when ordering a tenant credit report. Guys, there's a lot of laws and regulations when you are asking to run an applicant's credit report that you have to follow. Look up, again, on AGLA or AOA USA or Google Fair Credit Reporting Act and find out all the things you must do, like getting their permission in writing. And if there's an adverse situation and you're not going to rent to them, you got to tell them why, offer a copy of the credit report. So I'm not going to go through every line item of the Fair Credit Reporting Act, but you got to follow it. Educate yourself, look it up, know how to follow all the rules of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Mistake number four, not calling the tenants, past landlords, and employees. They got no past landlords. They're not renting a unit in my building. You need to talk to the landlord, find out what kind of tenant they are. You also obviously got to talk to their employer, make sure they're gainfully employed. I just had a landlord call me crying because the tenant said she was in the process of getting this wonderful job in I don't know where it was at, but then she let her move in and the lady never got the job, and now she has an unemployed tenant in her building. That's crazy. Always call the tenant's landlord. Always call their employers. Super important. Mistake number five, not doing complete background and lawsuit checks. You got to do a complete background check, evictions and things like that. You can get those through the AOA USA or AGLA websites. And also Google their name to find out if they've been in any lawsuits. This is something that Dennis Block told us on a webinar one time. He says if a tenant has either sued somebody or been subject to a lawsuit, he will not rent to them. No chance. So always check for that, especially if they've sued landlords or something like that. Again, I have a landlord that didn't check a tenant's lawsuit background, and it turns out that she had sued a landlord before she moved into this landlord's property. So now she has a litigious tenant in her building because she didn't Google the tenant's name to see if she was in a lawsuit. Crazy. Mistake number six, not using written agreements for everything. There are no more verbal agreements going forward. Everything has to be in writing. They got a parking spot. You're going to let them use a parking spot. Get it in writing. Do a parking agreement. Don't just say, yeah, go ahead and park there anytime, and if I need the space back, I'll let you know. No, there are no verbal agreements. Everything has to be in writing. Super, super important. Mistake number seven, failing to comply with rent control laws. Guys, there are a myriad of rules and ordinances and regulations that we have to follow, especially if you're in Los Angeles and you're dealing with the LAHD, the housing department. So make sure you understand all the tenant and rent control laws so you follow them, and you don't get sued by a tenant because you're doing something against the rent control laws. Super important. You got to educate yourselves. Mistake number 8, allowing your tenants to do repairs or maintenance. Guys, never, ever, ever let your tenant do repairs or maintenance on the exterior or in their own unit. That is a recipe for disaster. You're going to get sued. Something's going to happen, and it's not going to end up well. Do not let them work on your building. Get a handyman, get a contractor, get a plumber, whatever. Do not let them work, especially if they're going to trade their labor for rent or something crazy like that. Guys, it's 2025. We don't do that anymore. We have to be more professional. Mistake number 9, ignoring habitability standards in your units or the exterior of your building. Number one thing I think, or maybe not number one, but one of the top 2 or 3 reasons why you get sued by tenants is for not maintaining proper habitability standards. What do I mean by that? Make sure that everything works. Smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, their windows open properly, they close properly, all the locks are working properly, all your exterior lights, the light bulbs are working, and there's no dark spaces. The carpet's not frayed or torn up to create a tripping hazard. The paint isn't cracked or peeling or whatever. The other day, I was in my tenant's laundry room and I noticed there was some bubbling paint up there. So I immediately went to Home Depot, got the paint, got up there, cracked all the stuff, sanded it down, and repainted everything because I don't want him to be complaining that the paint is cracked and peeling. So maintain those habitability standards. Mistake number 10, incorrect handling of tenant buyouts. Listen, there's going to be a time when it's going to be appropriate to buy a tenant out of your unit. Maybe you want to move your mom in there. Maybe you want to move your daughter in there. Maybe you want to move in there, but whatever, there's going to be a buyout situation where you're going to have to pay to get that tenant out because they're leaving voluntarily. So make sure you handle that properly. There are rules and regulations in Los Angeles on how you do a cash for keys with a tenant. They have to have a 60-day cooling off period. There's a certain amount you got to pay. It's no more of a handshake and yeah, I'll give you a check and you're out and blah, blah, blah. Another way to get sued. Follow the cash for keys Los Angeles agreement. If you go to LAHD Housing Department website, there's a whole section there of how to do cash for keys and follow everything properly. And depending on the situation, depending on the tenant, it might even be worthwhile to have an attorney handle the buyout for you so you don't get sued because you made a mistake. All right. Mistake number 11, not responding quickly to repairs or maintenance requests from your tenants. Listen, when my tenant calls me, my plumbing's popped up, my tub is stopped up, whatever, my wall heater's not working, I am on the phone immediately calling my plumber, calling, hey, the wall heater's not working, or the pilot light went out or something, or she can't, whatever. And a lot of the times my tenant did something dumb like putting coffee grounds in the sink. There's no disposal and it caused a backup. Doesn't matter. I get my plumber out there immediately. I don't wait. I don't let the problem fester. I don't say, I'll get to it tomorrow, next day, whatever. Get on those repairs and maintenance requests immediately. Couple reasons. Number one is I don't want my tenant to think like I don't take care of the property and creates a bad feeling in her mind. That's really important. So get on those repairs and maintenance requests immediately. Mistake number 12, you can't retaliate or harass your tenants. This is new in 2024, 2025. There's, anti-harassment ordinances now. I mean, you can't harass a tenant. Don't bully your tenant. Don't make fun of your tenant. Don't, complain to your tenant. Oh my God, you're such a needy, complaining tenant. Don't give them any of that bullshit. Say, yes, I'll take care of the problem, and that's it. Don't talk to them if you don't have to, and don't retaliate. Maybe your tenant, I don't know, had his girlfriend move in for a week and didn't tell you, and she was parking on somebody else's spot or whatever. Don't retaliate and say, you weren't supposed to bring her in here. I'm going to take away your parking spot, or she can't. Don't do that. Handle it properly. Let the tenant know, hey, we don't do this, or, it's okay if your girlfriend's here, but she's got to park on the street. She can't squeeze in and park in the alley behind the garage because people can't get in and out, or it's going to cause a problem. Can't retaliate. Can't take something away from a tenant. That'll get you sued so fast your head will spin. So remember, there's anti-harassment ordinances now in Los Angeles and probably in California. Okay. Mistake number 13, not recording all tenant interactions. Not everybody has to do this, but if you have a large building and you've got a lot of tenants and you don't know them all that well or whatever, it's a great idea to try to communicate by email for everything, number one. That way you have a recording of what he said, what she said, what you said, etc. So there's no ambiguities. Or text messages. Texting is a good way. You can keep your text messages and record and save all your interactions with tenants. If you have to talk to them on the phone or you have to go in person, especially if there's a problem, there's an issue, you got to talk to the tenant and say, hey, I don't want you parking in the alley. Or your tenant says, hey, I got a problem here. This is going on and you didn't take care of this properly, or I didn't like the way this repair was handled, or I don't like the color of the, whatever the situation is. If it's kind of one of those kind of, I don't want to say adversarial situations, but one of those situations where there's an issue or a problem, record. First of all, do email or text if possible. If not, record the phone call and tell the tenant, I'm recording the phone call. I record all my interactions with my tenants. I hope you understand. Or if it's in person and you got to go visit the guy or gal, the tenant in the unit, take your phone. You got a recording app on your phone, iPhone, Android, whatever, and tell them when you walk in, hey, listen, I'm going to record our conversation. I don't want to forget anything. That way, the tenant can't come back to you later and say, hey, I said this, and the landlord said this, and she's blah, blah, blah. I got a recording right here. So unfortunately, we're in a litigious society now, especially tenants and landlords. There's a lot of lawsuits, a lot of litigation. And a lot of times it's he said, she said. So record your interactions with your tenants. Okay, super important. Let's see. Mistake number 14. Again, failing to stay up to date with changes to housing laws, policies, rules, regulations. There's all kinds of stuff that the politicos keep foisting on us. I'm going to go to an email that I got from Dennis Block, and his email says 2025, a new law is impacting residential landlords. So here's a couple of things that he said. Number one, new changes. Landlords cannot prohibit common household pets. So now you know. Charging an applicant for a credit check is severely limited now. Balcony and stairway inspections have been extended to January 1st, 2026. Number 4, landlords are responsible for the cost of changing locks when the tenant claims to be a victim of abuse. Wonderful. Number 5, landlords are forced to report positive rental payment information to credit institutions. Number 6, tenants are now given more time to contest evictions. Number 7, landlords must provide a copy of the credit report to the applicant within 7 days of receipt. Number 8, landlords must take pictures of the unit prior to leasing, when the premises have been vacated by the tenant, and after the tenant is prepared for a new tenancy. So these are just some of the things that are happening in 2025 that I wasn't aware of until I got this from Dennis. So you got to make sure that you stay informed about all the changes and rules and regulations and ordinances. I highly recommend you educate yourself about this stuff. Okay, mistake number 15, not subscribing to the vital, important landlord newsletters. I get newsletters from Dennis Block. I get landlord letters from newsletters from AOA USA and AGLA and the California Apartment Association's California Apartment Association. I'm also on newsletters from LAHD and Rent Control and everything from the city, because there's valuable information that I read on these newsletters that keep me informed. And if you're not subscribing to these newsletters, including my own email newsletter that I send out once or twice a week, I also highlight a lot of important information. But you got to get on these newsletters and you got to stay informed. So go ahead and start signing up for some of these important landlord newsletters. Okay, let's see. Mistake number 16 kind of goes with number 15. Not joining apartment owner associations, AGLA or AOA USA or California Apartment Associations. You guys should be joining these. There's a lot of perks. Not only are they bringing you great information via their newsletters, they have really informative webinars. They have lawsuit information. They have information about pending legislation where we can contact our legislatures and weigh in on some of these new rules or laws or regulations that they are thinking about imposing on us. So join one or more of these apartment owner associations. Very important. Mistake number 17. This is a good one. Becoming friends or too friendly with your tenants. Guys, big mistake. I've seen that backfire many times. Tenants are friendly, you're friendly, you guys have coffee together, whatever, and they become a little bit, I don't know what the word is, disrespectful to you as a landlord. Don't become friends with your tenants. Keep it as a professional relationship. Never, I don't recommend, doing things with your tenants, fraternizing with the tenants, or anything like that. Very important. Mistake number 18, not having a landlord attorney on speed dial or know how to find one. Guys, you got to have an attorney. a relationship with an attorney before you need him or her. Make sure you know a couple of landlord attorneys that you can call, because one of these days something's going to happen. Your tenant's going to threaten something, or they're going to ask for something that's illegal or whatever, and you're going to need an attorney to turn to. So find one before you need him or her. Mistake number 19. Not regularly inspecting your property. Oh my God. Go to your property at least once a quarter, walk around, see what's going on, have periodic interior inspections. Guys, this will save you a boatload of trouble and money and heartache. If you know what's going on with your property, it's really easy for a couple, 3 or 4 years to go by and you haven't been to the property in ages and you don't know what's going on. You don't realize somebody's parking in the alley. You don't realize that bushes are overgrowing or whatever. So make sure you inspect your property. Mistake number 20, not being professional. Guys, no more mom and pop operations where you're just winging it, or you say, don't worry, I've always done it this way. It's 2025. We can't run our building like we used to in the old days. One-page rental agreement, handshake deals. We are in a different environment, and if you don't become more professional, you are going to open yourself up to liability, lawsuits, and all kinds of bullshit from tenants and the city and from attorneys. They're just looking for us rich landlords to sue. So be more professional and do things by the letter of the law. No more mom and pop stuff. That's the old days. Mistake number 21, not checking your building for water damage and potential mold situations, especially in foundation areas and bathrooms. Most policies don't cover water intrusion or mold remediation. Maybe mold remediation, but I'm pretty sure most insurance policies don't cover water intrusion. Guys, bathrooms, you got to go check the bathroom. Is there adequate ventilation? Is there any green mold on the tile? Is there just water everywhere when they shower? Do you have a fan to get the moisture out of the property? If not, get a fan in your bathroom so the water doesn't build up and you don't get mold growing everywhere. Also, foundations often have water intrusion depending on the situation. When I sell a building and the termite inspector goes to check the foundation, to check for drywood termites or ground termites under the foundation, I would say 7 out of 10 times he comes back and says, oh, you got water puddling down there. There's a leak. Or most likely, there's a slope and you got a lot of trees and roots and stuff that are growing underneath your foundation. And when it rains, water goes into your foundation. So that is a really easy way to spend thousands of dollars to fix a situation because you didn't check for water intrusion in your foundation or in your showers and bathrooms. Very important. Mistake number 22. Not checking your building for lawsuit hazards. Guys, you got stairs. You better have these what are they called? Well, they're called reflective treads, 3M, but they're anti-slip thingies you put on your stairs, especially if you have not the wood, but the other, I don't know what the material is called, masonite or something like that. But anyways, the stairs in my building, when they get wet, they are slippery as heck. I got these anti-slip things on every single step of my building. That is the number one thing, slip and fall when it rains. So make sure you do that. Check for other things that could be lawsuit hazards. There's attorneys out there that are just gunning for us. So be preemptive and make sure there's no lawsuit hazards in your building. Number 20, let's see, what are we? 23? Okay. Here's a good one. Doing favors for friends and family as a landlord. In other words, no good deed goes unpunished. I can't tell you how many stories I've heard from landlords that say, oh, my girlfriend, she got divorced and she didn't have a place to stay. And, she needed a place for her son and herself. And I had a vacancy and I let her move in with no application, no deposit, no credit check, no nothing. And I didn't get a lease. I just let her move in. I gave her a great deal. And that tenant turns into the tenant from hell. Happens all the time. People resent when you do favors for them. It's human nature. I don't know why. I don't understand why. But the bottom line is don't do any favors for friends or family and move them in without all the proper precautions. It's a recipe for disaster. Number 24, not having an SCEP inspection plan for keeping the city out of your building. In other words, the LAHD SCEP inspectors come out every 3 or 4 years to inspect your building. You need to know how to refuse inspections legally. You don't have to let them into your building. There was a municipal code ordinance that was changed in 2018 that illegally allows owners to legally refuse SCEP inspectors. I have a whole series of videos on how I keep the SCEP inspectors out of my triplex. Go to my YouTube channel, Derrick Ruiz, and watch those videos and learn how to keep those inspectors out of your building. Nothing ever good comes from letting an inspector into your building. Number 25, and this is the last one, not paying attention. Wakey, wakey, we're not in Kansas anymore. You have to pay attention to what's going on. You have to educate yourself. You have to be proactive. I see a lot of landlords, they call me to sell their building. They haven't been to the building in 10 years. They don't have their leases. They don't know who's living in what building. They don't have keys to the units. They haven't raised rents in years. And they're just not paying attention to the building. And that hurts them in the long run because the rents are below market. And there's people living there that aren't on the lease. And there's people doing stuff there like running businesses out of the garage that are not supposed to do that. Or there's tenants there that are illegally subletting on Airbnb their units while they go and buy a house or something. You got to pay attention to your property. It's crucial. Again, we're not in Kansas anymore. We're in LA, California, 2025, with the deck stacked against landlords because of the politicians that for some reason don't like us very much. So I hope this was important. Like I said, I've got like 6 or 7 more mistakes. I'll save that for another video. But again, if you guys have any questions, you need help, you don't know what to do, you don't know where to turn, you realize you're making some of these mistakes and you need some help, please call me. I sell apartment buildings, I list apartment buildings, but I also help my fellow landlords run their buildings properly. I want to make sure that we are, professional landlords. We run our buildings properly. We don't overspend our money when we don't have to, and we stay out of trouble and stay away from lawsuits. So again, call me, text me, email me. You know how to get a hold of me. I'm here to help you. Thanks for watching, Landlords. This is Derrick Ruiz, eXp Realty, your apartment broker and expert.